My brother and we were obsessed with Dragon Ball Z, like religiously obsessed. We'd spend hours mimicking Kamehamehas, arguing about power levels, and of course, practicing the fusion dance. Goten and Trunks were our heroes. Their cocky attitude, their raw power. Gotenks was the ultimate embodiment of our childhood fantasies. One day, we stumbled upon an old, unmarked VHS tape at a garage sale. The label was just a single, hand-drawn symbol. A crude, almost unsettlingly off rendition of the fusion dance pose. We, being the DBZ fanatics we were, snatched it up immediately. That night, we popped the tape into our ancient VCR. The screen flickered to life, displaying nothing. Just static. But it wasn't the normal white noise static. This was different. It pulsed, it throbbed, it seemed to breathe. A low, guttural hum emanated from the TV speakers, vibrating deep in our chests. My brother, always the braver one, reached for the remote to turn it off. But before he could, the static coalesced. It formed shapes distorted and flickering, like a nightmare struggling to break through into reality. Then we saw them. It was Goten and Trunks. But wrong. Their faces were stretched and elongated, their eyes wide and black, devoid of pupils. Their smiles were grotesque parodies of their usual cocky grins, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. They were performing the fusion dance, but their movements were jerky and unnatural, like puppets controlled by unseen malevolent strings. The humming intensified, growing into a deafening roar. The distorted figures moved closer, their fingers almost touching. And then, the fusion failed. Not in the way we were used to seeing in the show, with the comical fat or skinny Gotenks. This was horrific. The two figures ripped apart, their bodies contorting and twisting in ways that defied anatomy. Skin peeled back, revealing raw, pulsating muscle. Bones snapped and splintered. Their screams, they weren't the screams of cartoon characters. They were the screams of pure, unadulterated agony. The screen filled with a blinding white light, and then blackness. The humming stopped. The tape ejected itself from the VCR. We sat there, paralyzed with terror. We didn't speak, we just stared at the blank TV screen, our childhood innocence shattered. We tried to destroy the tape. We burned it, smashed it, buried it. But it kept reappearing. The next morning, it was back on our shelf, the crude fusion dance symbol seeming to mock us, and the nightmares started. Every night we'd see the Unfused. We'd see Goten and Trunks trapped in that eternal moment of failed fusion, their bodies endlessly tearing and reforming, their screams echoing in the void. We'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, the humming still resonating in our bones. We tried to tell our parents, but they dismissed it as childish fantasy. They didn't see the tape. They didn't hear the humming. They didn't see the things that started appearing at the edges of our vision. Flickering, distorted figures, childlike silhouettes, but wrong. They were always just out of focus, always watching. My brother, he started to change. He became withdrawn, silent. He stopped drawing, stopped playing, stopped being my brother. He'd just stare at the wall, whispering to himself, whispering about the Unfused. One day, I found him in the backyard. He was mimicking the fusion dance. But his movements were jerky and unnatural, his face contorted in a grotesque parody of a smile. His eyes, they were black, empty. He turned to me, that horrifying smile widening. He reached out a hand, his fingers twitching and spasming. "Let's fuse, brother," he whispered, his voice a distorted, guttural echo. "Let's become one." I ran as fast as I could, the humming chasing me. The image of the Unfused burned into my mind. I'm writing this now, hiding. I don't know where to go, I don't know who to trust. The humming is always there, growing louder. The figures are getting closer, I can feel them, pulling at me, calling to me. They want me to fuse. And I'm afraid I might.